Comdeck 3.
Forwarding Commissioner Seedling.
Go ahead.
Seedling,
Yes, sir. We're on him, sir.
don't make a move without me.
Roger, I understand. No, we won't make a move until you get here.
Greetings.
Hello there. We just stopped by to introduce ourselves. We're Jehovah's Witnesses.
How do you do? I am Beldar.
We attend the Kingdom Hall on Cove Neck Road.
Ah, yes. Next to the dry cleaners across from 7-Eleven.
Exactly. May we ask you a question?
Proceed.
Do you agree that the world is headed towards a terrible calamity?
Most definitely. In fact, I have direct personal knowledge that this is so.
Great. May we come in?
Of course. Enter. Assume comfort. My mate, Primac.
Greetings. Be seated.
So, what do you know of the doom awaiting this planet?
Oh, well, as witnesses, we believe that the end of the world is approaching, and that only 144,000 people will be saved to reign.
I do not believe it will be that many.
No, the Bible clearly states 144,000 will be saved to reign.
That is a very optimistic estimate, considering the primitive weapons the Earth people will use for their defense.
Some Earth weapons are not so useless.
Mebs, drop it.
Well, when the time comes, no weapon of this Earth shall avail mankind.
Correct.
Where are you people from?
France. We come from France.
But we are American citizens now.
Do you have proof?
Prove?
I'm going over to Christina's. She's going to give me a ride to the dance, so I'll see you there.
All right.
I take it your daughter was born here.
Yes. She is native to your country.
Et vous le parlez encore ici en Amérique?
Oui, absolument. Mais c'est difficile à pratiquer dans cette ville. Il n'y a pas beaucoup de français continental ici à New Jersey.
Et vous aussi?
Oui, j'en parle souvent avec mes amis francophones.
Mangez-vous des cuisses de grenouille?
Oui, de temps en temps.
Il y a un restaurant. Connaissez-vous le restaurant qui s'appelle Le Grenier?
Scarlet, Matillion, Belda. Scarlet, Matillion, Belda.
Près de Paramus.
Beldar, phone for you.
Tell the caller that I will return his call at my next earliest convenience.
No, Beldar. The big phone.
The big phone. I hope that you humans have enjoyed your visit. Come again now. You are leaving.
We haven't finished. How did you arrive in
I
this
think
country?
you are finished.
Thank you for coming.
I don't think they bought it, sir.
Oh, you just can't talk religion with some people.
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
We asked for this meeting because we're so deep in the woods with this that we figured 4 heads would be better than 2.
You want to see your guy exonerated? Then we need to find the true actor here, because nobody else is going to go through all of this. And frankly, nothing less is going to do.
Yes? We gotta backtrack to Dayton. Seems like that's where this whole horror show started. Somebody's got to retrace every step Maitland took. I'd say re-interview Glory, maybe even the kids, but...
Yeah, but they weren't with Maitland around the clock.
That's right. I don't know. I guess I could fly up there for a couple days myself, but I don't think that's enough time.
I have a state police homicide conference in Atlanta tomorrow.
How about sending Holly Gibney? Holly Gibney. Yeah, the one and only. It shouldn't be too hard to find where she parked her spaceship these days.
Chicago, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we get her on this, there's nobody better at retracing steps.
What's with the spaceship?
Well, as an individual, she's what I'd call unique.
I have to say, all these contradicting eyewits, videos, and forensics. Sounds like your man has a doppelganger. From the German Doppelgänger. The myth is, if it's a myth, is that everyone in the world has an identical double.
If you mean by that a twin, we've already checked that out.
Not a twin, no, sir. A non-biological double. The Egyptians call it a ka, the Norwegians a vardaja, the Finns an etiainen, the Swiss a dark uncle.
She likes history.
My particular favorite is fetch, from the Old Irish. Find that word quite fetching, don't you? What we're looking for is a flesh and blood male biped. My theory about the doppelganger is that it is a primitive construct used to explain bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or just the everyday struggle between the id and superego.
If it's a myth.
What?
You said if it's a myth.
Yes, I did.
Because I have no tolerance for the unexplainable.
Well then, sir, you'll have no tolerance for me.
Okay, here we go.
I can tell you what day May 1st lands on 204 years from now, faster than any computer on Earth. I can look at a skyscraper for 2 seconds from a speeding car and tell you within 6 inches how tall that building is. And I can not only recite the lyrics of every rock and roll song written from 1954 to the present day, but I can tell you which Billboard chart position they were in week to week before they fell off completely. But you know what? I don't listen to music because I don't like it. Heights make me throw up. And if you ask me what date it is today, I have to look at a calendar.
Now, all that's true, right?
When I was 4 years old, my parents took me to see a psychiatrist to be examined. That was what got the ball rolling. And by the time I was 8 years old, I had been tested, studied, written about, and videoed by psychiatrists, behaviorists, neuroscientists, and 6 different kinds of interdisciplinary sociobiologists. And you know what they said? Fuck if I know. So, Mr. Anderson, if I feel like using the conditional if, then if's the word, Mockingbird.
It's nice to be with you here in Los Angeles. I was saying last night at the Living Temple when we did the talk that LA plays a big role in my life. When I first was sort of brought into the public eye, and believe me, that wasn't by my own intention. Of course, I've researched these things for years, as Wendy has said, but I never thought I was actually going to do it publicly. And when life or destiny or what have you threw me into the public eye around the year 2000, it was actually in LA that I began. So, it's been 3 years that Robin has wanted to bring me down here to his wonderful forum, and also here at the Granada Forum. So it's been a long time in the making, but again, especially for me, it's quite important and significant that I'm back in LA after so many years. So it's great to be with you all. We're going to actually start with a little clip. I want to show a video clip from John Greenwald first to set the stage of the presentation today. So we can, with no further ado, run the DVD. Ted, whenever you want. Okay. This will sort of just preview some of what we're going to go into tonight.
We found the weapons of mass destruction. We found biological laboratories.
Everybody knows that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction.
I have every reason to believe that the intelligence that we were operating off was correct.
No question we have said that Saddam Hussein possesses biological and chemical weapons.
We know where they are. They're in the area around Tikrit and Baghdad and east, west, south, and north somewhat.
All this will be made clear in the course of the operation for whatever duration it takes.
Are you confident that you'll also find weapons of mass destruction?
I believe we will find evidence of the programs of chemical and biological weapons, yes.
How about the actual weapons?
Well, I just don't know. Let's wait and see what the team that's over there...
Actions continue with our new exploitation teams that have been brought in.
And that we will in fact find weapons or evidence of weapons programs that are conclusive.
It is somewhat puzzling, I think, that you can have 100% certainty about the weapons of mass destruction's existence and zero certainty about where they are.
Do you agree? And does it matter whether or not you
We
find
might
those
ask
weapons?
the Prime Minister that. We won't be proven wrong.
This is a process that takes some time, and it will ebb and flow.
One thing we know is that he had a weapons program.
I don't know anybody that I can think of who has contended that the Iraqis had nuclear weapons.
We believe he has, in fact, reconstituted nuclear weapons.
But on the specific issue of weapons of mass destruction, it's going to take time, and we're going to have to be patient.
Over time, the truth will come out.
Now, it's going to take time to find anything because
People will find that we presented a solid case, a case that is there and was there and will remain there.
It's going to take a period of time to find the people. I don't think we'll discover anything myself.
Still thought that 3.5 months for new inspections was a rather short time before cooling a day, and especially when we now see that they say, the U.S. government is saying that, look, you have to have a bit of patience, these things take time.
I believe that we will find the truth, and the truth is he was developing a program for weapons of mass destruction.
I think what will happen is we'll discover people who will tell us where to go find it.
You're not going to find it simply in a house-to-house search. You're going to find it when people start to talk to you.
It is not like a treasure hunt where you just run around looking everywhere hoping you find something. I just don't think that's going to happen. The inspectors didn't find anything, and I doubt that we will.
Are people going to find out the truth? And the truth will say that this intelligence was good intelligence, no doubt in my mind.
What we will do is find the people who will tell us. There are a lot of people who lie and get away with it, and that's just a fact.
He has not developed any significant capability with respect to weapons of mass destruction. He is unable to project conventional power against his neighbors.
We are able to keep arms from him. His military forces have not been rebuilt.
Is U.S. credibility on the line over weapons of mass destruction in Iraq?
I'm not exactly sure what that means.
Thanks to John Greenwald. That was from John Greenwald's Uncovered the War in Iraq. It's just recently been released. So thanks to John Greenwald for that little clip. What was that clip shown for? sad to say, your president is a liar. The administration is a liar. Who are these people? What are they doing in power? How do they get there? The first thing we need to understand about this is that, of course, these individuals are not particularly from this country. You may be nationally an American, but that does not mean that you actually serve this country. And that's the thing that we have to really clarify for people. Because they speak in American accents and they may even say, hey, I was born here. But these people have allegiances to other forces that you're not meant to know about. And we are now in the age where we're going to know about those allegiances. Because these people are servants of Vatican, these people are servants of the British royal family, and their job is to undermine and destroy the greatest country on the face of the earth. And they're doing an excellent job at it. And there's reasons for that, and we're going to look at those reasons. They have a mandate that's been handed down hundreds of years ago, actually from the inception of the country. And it is to target this country and make sure that it does not rise to the glory that it is capable of. And unfortunately, as I said, they're doing a marvelous job at it. They will receive their pats on the backs. They've already received their knighthoods from Her Majesty the Queen. I mean, that's documented. But what have they really done? You see, inner atrocities that happen within the confines of America, and Waco jumps to mind, but the Randy Weaver case, and we all know there's many more. The information that Ted Gunderson, John DeCamp have gone through, we understand that there's enormous injustices that have taken place in America. But you see, what you have to realize is that doesn't really send many ripple effects abroad. It doesn't put people realizing that there's jeopardy in the United States. That's just America's problem. So these inner atrocities, they don't resonate around the world. A tragedy, therefore, had to be devised that would ruin the U.S. reputation globally. And that is what has happened. America is not now known as a country that doesn't honor international law, human rights, or religious freedom. And American tourists are going to pay for that. It's the famous sabotage from within, as the Roman philosopher and statesman Cicero said. A murderer is less to be feared. They already warned us about it. As President Mubarak said, he has never seen such anti-American feeling being as strong as it is today throughout the world. So if you wanted enemies, you've got them now. Because Al-Qaeda is a fiction created by what you jokingly call neocons. Neocons are just a catchphrase used by the other side. It really doesn't have much meaning at all. A neocon is a skull and bones man, is what a neocon is. A neocon is a Straussian, a follower of the philosophy of Leo Strauss and other demagogues like that who prefer not to come in front of the camera. A neocon is a Russell Trust agent and a Freemason. And they are themselves lieutenants for other powers. And their job was to create enemies of America. They are enemies already on domestic soil, and now their job was to create foreign enemies with the idea that this country is beset by enemies and is thought of wrongly and is considered wrongly. Well, why not? The proof is there, isn't it? I've said in my other works, and Anthony and Jordan have gone into this, that these individuals are obviously related to the dynasties of old. Father George and his wife Barbara are both descendants of Godefroy de Bouillon, who in 1099 was leading European noblemen in a successful crusade to recapture Jerusalem from the Islamic faith and moved into the king's palace there at Temple Mount. And Godefroy was the first king of Jerusalem and the Duke of Lower Lorraine, a major region of the Illuminati bloodline. Bush is closely related to every European monarch on and off the throne and has kinship with every member of Britain's royal family, the House of Windsor. But the Windsor is again a catchphrase. Windsor had to be created because they all had such thick German accents that the British people were going to wonder, who is this that's just moved in here at Buckingham bloody Palace? No, it's Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. Right? It's the Guelph dynasty. It's the Habsburgs and the Hanoverians that is behind the Windsors. And when the red phone rings, Bush jumps. He's related to her daughter, Queen Elizabeth. So, want to know who's behind Bush? There it is. And he is 13th cousin once removed from the heir of the throne, Prince Charles. These are oligarchs. These are aristocrats. And of course, because of the wars and the rise of rebellion, they can't operate openly anymore from the throne and hang people in the streets like they used to do in my country, where the nobleman, the lord, would literally stand on his balcony and watch the rebels be hung, drawn, and quartered. They know if they try that, they'll be overthrown. So they change tactics just a little bit and put people that are officially not known to be related to them in power. And they achieve what they want in that way. Now, Bush's family tree can be documented as far back as the 15th century. He's connected to Edward I of Longshanks, that all the Scots know as the Hammer of the Scots, who decimated and murdered up there. It's business as usual for these people. And the Bouillons were servants, though, of Pope Gregory VII, particularly Godefroy. He didn't just dream up this idea on his own. He was sent. He was an agent, as his descendants today are agents. He was sent by the Pope Gregory VII and Urban II. And his wife, that's the senior Bush, of course, him and his wife are both related to the same British monarchs. And Clinton and Dole and Gore, the rest is the same. I go into that in my other works. We have the phenomenon of the White Pope. But the White Pope is just the head of the official organ, the official Roman Catholic religion. Behind him is the Black Pope. And behind the Black Pope, for those who are familiar specifically with my work, is the cult of Aton. And these hierarchs out of the ancient Egyptian world, the old Israelite Egyptian pharaohs of old. A whole other concept that we don't have time to elaborate on now. But those who are familiar with my work will understand that there's a worship of the dark side of the sun, which Christians call Luciferianism. And they're not far wrong, actually. They're not far wrong. But I prefer to call it Atonism, the worship of the sun church that Jordan has spent his whole life elaborating on. The solar church. What is the solar church? These people that we're talking about today are lower henchmen, servants, lieutenants of this great power. But specifically, Bush answers to the Queen and also to the Black Pope, who at this point in time is Peter Hans Kolvenbach and his coterie, Opus Dei, and many of the other orgs that they control in this country, including the media. As David Icke said, the Queen of England made Bush's military chiefs, Colin Powell and Norman Schwarzkopf, honorary knights of the British Empire. And the senior Bush is indicted for her services rendered also in the First War of Iraq. Of course. But for any American to get on his knees to those people in Buckingham Palace is an obscenity. That alone should have had them thrown into the Atlantic Ocean where they belong. How dare they, that a few hundred years ago, you were fighting these people. You were all out war against these tyrants. The Tsar of Russia wasn't your enemy. The Outer Mongolians weren't. Certainly not the Afghanistans and Saddam Hussein. No. The enemy of America, as I've said many times, was Britain. So what are they doing giving the keys of the city of New York to the Queen of England just a short time after? What are these guys getting on their knees? Well, they're doing it because they have to. They're going home to say, pat me on the back, now I've done my job. America is sinking a little bit further into the grave. Where's my medal? Where's the schools that my kids are going to go to? You see, all those privileges. I don't care about the American people. I care about my life, my family. Henry Ford, who was a little bit onto some of this stuff, he was off in many areas, but the man had a sort of a glimmer, same as Howard Hughes, into what was going on. And one thing he said I agree with, he said people deserve the government they get. We're going to see in this presentation that he is exactly precisely right, probably more than he even knew. We do deserve the governments we get, and we're going to find out how we bring those governments into existence. In my work specifically, unlike a lot of other researchers in this field, I do not leave consciousness at the door. I've always stated, and will continue to state, until the end, that no matter how many other permutations that this conflict takes on, like Federal Reserve, you see, or IRS, or endless vaccinations, you see, or war in the Gulf, you see, or any other kind of permutation that's out there in your face in the physical time-space continuum, any of these horrors that are taking place, illegal immigration, the list goes on. The real war is a psychic one. The real war is on consciousness. And too many people are forgetting this in this conspiratorial movement, so to speak, or in alternative history. And I will not ever make that mistake. Science has often left consciousness at the door, and look at what has happened to science. Now it has to bring it back in because the science basically run aground in the 1970s from all the time of leaving consciousness out and so-called objectivity. But we must not make the same mistake. So no matter whatever permutations of the tyranny that you see openly, as awful as that is in the 3D world, never forget first that it's all about attack here. It's they live. It's psychic dictatorship. What is government? The proof is in the words, the etymology. From the Latin gubernare, or the Greek kubernon. And those words mean to control. And then, of course, you can look it up anywhere. Mente simply means mind. So government literally means the control of the mind. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing is hidden from us. Nothing. It's right there for the person to see. But my question is then, how is this accomplished? Once we understand that it's a psychic tyranny and they're trying, to control our minds as well as our lives, We want to discover a little bit more about how that's accomplished, because we are in the age of solutions now.
So many. I didn't come here to fight so they could own more lands. That I have to work for them.
Nor me. All right, lads! I'm not dying for these bastards! Let's go home!
William Wallace?
Can't be. Not tall enough.
The Almighty says this must be a fashionable fight. It's drawn the finest people. Where is thy salute? For presenting yourselves on this battlefield. I give you thanks.
This is our army. To join it, you give homage.
I give homage to Scotland. And if this is your army, why does it go?
We didn't come here to fight for them.
Oh! The English are too many.
Sons of Scotland, I am William Wallace.
William Wallace is 7 feet tall.
Yes, I've heard. He kills men by the hundred. And if he were here, he'd consume the English with fireballs from his eyes and bolts of lightning from his arse. I am William Wallace. And I see a whole army of my countrymen here in defiance of tyranny. You've come to fight as free men. And free men you are. What will you do with that freedom? Will you fight?
Fight against that? No! We will run!
And we will live. Aye. Fight and you may die. Run and you'll live. At least a while. And dying in your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Hey, you epic being, welcome. Andre Hodge, Infinite Potential Healing, serving the truth with you once more. As I say, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey and investing some of your peak awareness time in me and whatever I've offered in the past and stuff. I hope if you've taken the time to digest and contemplate and integrate anything I've said over the years, it's helped you to gain a greater comprehension and understanding of yourself, what's going on in the world and how to navigate it and overcome everything and stuff, right? So I've had a bit of a break, right? And I've contemplated whether even to do a video and stuff, but I thought I would, alright? Just to say hi and touch base and see how it feels and many things, right? It's all very interesting, say, myself even coming out and offering these videos and stepping out into the public light and supporting things over the years and all that sort of stuff, and just trying to find out who I am and what all this is about and stuff. It's about me, like my own discovery and what I'm capable of, if I'm actually like worthy of doing this, or people might actually listen to me and all that sort of stuff, or actually take on board some of the crap this Aussie brat says, alright? And but also just that core will of there is more, there is something, we are something, what is it, can we know, can we learn, and all that sort of stuff, right? And I've shared my journey many times and all the components and all that sort of stuff, and what is it all about? You know, like, what is existence about? What is the level of quality of existence we can have, and all those sort of things, and altruism and empathy and development of an awareness, talents, and the mechanics of it all, and, you know, seeking people out and trying to find out about yourself or get help and all this sort of stuff, or what is energy, what is, you know, intuitive talents, what is pattern recognition, and all these sort of things. And then I think, like, really what I've tried to instill in you as an individual is that, yes, we are in this scenario, we don't know what's going on, this world is a certain way, and it's magical and it's wonderful and there's incredible experiences in it. There's also some stuff missing, and there's also limits, and, you know, stuff happens that doesn't add up, and we seek help for it and we don't get answers and all those sort of things. And so my journey has always been about, like I've said, my joy is discovery, like the wonder of discovery, like the vastness of the unknown versus the known. Like, I remember when I really started getting going many years ago, it was like death was the first thing, and I got into Danny and Brinkley, and then I went and had this past life regression, and I experienced death. And I tell you, not like I don't invite death wish and all this sort of stuff, but I can't freaking wait, because it felt so good to leave the body and stuff and be free of all this stuff. It was the Middle Ages, and I got poisoned, and it was like very interesting, because data sets is like, say the person that killed me in that life, I got the image of the person in this life. It was visual, like telepathic sort of stuff. So I know, you know, to pick up information and data points relative to photographs, and me when I was in IT, as the Mozzies come out, me when I was in IT, I was very Windows, Microsoft, and those sort of things. I had a very good photographic sort of memory, so I just knew, you know, there was a finite number. There might be 5,000 different options and stuff in it, but I could remember everything and just know how it felt and stuff, and just like regions of the world, like I knew how to get to places just by how it felt, seeing the image of a particular location on the land and stuff like that. So I've always had a photographic sort of thing like that as one of my data points, and so that's when I say, like, doing pattern recognition with 10,000 data points per person and stuff like that, the frequencies in the voice and all the layers, multi-dimensional stuff. And so yeah, it's just, for me, like, what I've tried to instill in all of this is that, and me being an example of that, is that you might be the key that we've been looking for. Like, who the hell are you, right? What is it in your potential to be? And so I love investing in people, and to me it's like doing GSF missions and stuff like that. Like, me doing one healing on a person might be the most profound GSF mission I freaking do, alright? And just holding space for someone to clock over, like, the self-realization of that different way. It might just be like, brrr, like, change all the things and stuff. And that's where I appreciate the life force volume in people, that they just don't have it in them to take on more data, because all that ladder structure, unwinding of stuff and all that goes on in the body. So there's all this sort of stuff and appreciation. And so yeah, like, it's just very, very fascinating. And I think I'm going to call this GSF 38, right? And it's related to anti-gods, pure source, and Earth Mother and stuff, because I'm just warming up, right? Seeing how it feels, and to say and what I can say and all that sort of stuff. Because it's been on, right? And so it's been a quite unique era for myself, because I love, like, pushing it hard, like being totally destroyed, putting myself back together and just going into something, and realizing that sense of destruction and all that was just a influence or an overlay trying to impede me doing something that would be on the other side, which would be great. And then, you know, flipping it all and realizing that was just an influence and all that sort of stuff. But it's so embodied, you don't know the separation. So the object nature of appreciating the influence and know thyself and all those sort of things that I've instilled in everything I do and stuff, to help you fast track and not have to go through all the hardships. But there's a very monumental significance of actually having experience and being smashed and realizing, oh shit, that's what it is. And you might be like in kindergarten and going through something that's very light, and just imagine what it's like healing planet with 8-9 billion people, or freaking pure source and stuff, of all the variables that might be coming at you and that. Alright, so it's been, I think it was like almost 30-40 days since I've released a video and stuff, right? So it's been very rare for me to be this way in retreat. Like I say, I love going into it, and I always, like, from a professional energetic responsibility level, I wouldn't do a show or a video or anything if I was not clear or anything like that. And I can also identify the variables that are potentially influencing the video and the impact on an individual and stuff and what's going on with them. It's all, experience is a key to wisdom. Like, I just have to be me and be on my game all the time. Not that I am always perfect and stuff, but I appreciate the variables, and I know, because I push the limit so much and challenge things so much, the level of discernment goes off the charts, because most people are looking for the wrong in the right to justify, oh, fuel, there's an issue there, I don't need to listen to all that crap, or I don't need to listen to all that information, because that will change me, and then I will see all the shit around me. So I'm looking for the invalid to stay where I'm at and all this sort of crap. And it's just, you know, I just find it fascinating that people, I've got birds above me, and there's a bit of a gutter, and there's water sprinkling down behind me and stuff. So the birds are having a party around me. Not the lorikeets, rainbow lorikeets, they're different birds, having a rave. I've been getting into music as well, like loving music, and getting really back to my core of, like, my 90s DJ, where music was life to me. Everything revolved around music and stuff, and getting to that pure creative state and stuff. And but yeah, like, I appreciate all the variables. And then, like, for me, like, it's magical when people get all that and they come through the other side, and then we get to helping them out and all that sort of stuff. I'm getting rained on by third party above me. So there's a big filtering process that goes on and all that sort of stuff, and you know, there's all the components of developing, gaining data, the context, experience, putting it all together, having logic, but then instinct, and then your intent, and all those sort of things, right? So, and I never play the victim, right? I think it was Emotional Mastery Part 4, I talked about the victim state and society rewards the victim and how your energy field opens up and you can get hacked and all that sort of stuff. So there can be scenarios go on that want to create that in you that you've got to transmute, right? And do the emotional mastery, sort of flip at it and realize, like I've said in the last few videos, particularly, I highly recommend going and listening to Amplify the Echoes 15 and 16 about thoroughness and the DNA sort of stuff, right? And working out so much that's impeding us, but it isn't enough, right? You're still here, you're still breathing, right? You're still willing to challenge everything in the paradigm of this reality, to contemplate this stuff, let alone whatever you take on board. And you know, I might say stuff 2 or 3 years ago and it's like, oh yeah, whatever, and then you go through an experience 5 years time, it's like, oh shit, I didn't listen to him then, right? But it's like, that's where you put all the algorithm of you together and stuff, and experience is vital and stuff. So it's like that Yoda where he leaves Luke to go through to face his Darth Vader sort of stuff. You know, the Jedi Master knew that he needed to defeat himself, okay? So GSF 38, and I'm going to be a bit light on the actual particular information. I think I'm just going to be deliberately vague, but the information, the coordinates ideally will be there, but I just want to be a bit topographical and give the variables and stuff, alright? Because I've worked out a lot that's gone on with me. I'm in new territory of my healing and stuff. I've worked out evolved mechanics and stuff, and the retreat, it was very methodical, the retreat. So I released a couple of videos and then I took a break. I like to release one once a week and stuff like that, but sometimes I pull back and do it every fortnight or even less and stuff, and I'm under no pressure to do any videos and stuff. To me, like, every video I do is my last one. It's like when the death stuff that I said back in 2008 and stuff, it's like, to me, the logic of having a bucket list, so you do all the shit at the end of your life, it's freaking, why do you wait? Like, every moment is the potential to be your bucket list. Like, what is the best you can do in this moment? And that's where I do my healings, and I say, that's the way to go, right? With me, right? Disarm, have the courage to, you know, go into the unknown with that and stuff. And I mentioned the healing because I had quite a few book, right before the solstice and stuff like that, and I actually shut down, and some people got through. I don't know how that happened and stuff, but I had like quite an influx of people and stuff, and there's quite a few people I need to get in touch with, and I just really wanted to offer you a bit of a public apology for that lack of professionalism in the 3D from my perspective, because I always my mechanics is I sit back and I wait for you to book and you to pay, and then my engagement will start. And I, as a part of my professionalism, I do reach out and do a personal email with that and stuff like that. So yeah, those of you that have at this stage that I haven't been in touch with, I do apologize, but there's a very good reason, and coming out the other side of this, it will be even better, right? So I think it's close to 40 days since I've released the video, which is the longest break I've had. I haven't actually had a break like that in 5 years, and there was very good reason for it. I felt some shit was brewing, right? So usually, like the equinoxes and the solstice and stuff, I like to do it as a marker point of the achievements that have gone on in that past era of that cycle and stuff like that. And I do like to, like I say, put it all together and come together like the A-Team. Like, I love it when a plan comes together, sort of thing, and just, you know, it's just magical. And I'm always about like the 1%. If you've watched Michael Jordan's The Last Dance and stuff, he talked about, you know, there might be someone in the stand that's never seen him before, and he wants to put on do the best, play the best game to reward that person and stuff and that. And it's not the ego thing, it's like the level of operation and integrity and professionalism and stuff he had. So like doing with this multi-D intuitive, like massive galactic battle sort of stuff of being on Earth, it's a bit different, right? And all the issues and uncertainty with people and triggering and all that sort of stuff, it's fascinating, right? So, but what I'm getting to is a bit of my strategy that went on recently, right, over the last few weeks. So I always feel like I'm pushing to do a video and I'll do it at the highest level, but I felt like, oh, I actually did a process of elimination of things to reveal a lot, right? What's going on to me, but I always operate in an altruistic mode of, this is happening to me, I can feel the patterns, and what can I do with it? Freaking anti-gods, right? And the structures and all that lattice of stuff of the influences. So I might not show you the images, I might just stream this, and I've showed the images before and they're on my Instagram and stuff like that. But so there was three main things, right? So there was a public shows, there was the sessions, and then there was me, okay? So I did this process of elimination, right? So I withdrew from doing public stuff, which is rare for me, right? I don't feel obligated and stuff, and I feel like I can put it all together. I also live like each moment is my last, and every show might be my last and stuff like that. So I do my best and offer the information that I feel is needed and stuff. And just on the information, I felt like start of this year, I got so much together. You know, the Sabrina Wallace variable has been massive, and the fact that, say, people like Cliff High don't talk anything about it, just like is a major red flag, right? And just so how it is just totally not talked about, right? It's just like, wow, you know. And so I've been contemplating doing things on dimensional levels of mechanics going on, teaching. So I might get back into the multi-dimensional method to 3D Madness sort of theme again, which has always been a core theme, but it was the first one I got going 2021 and stuff. And yeah, like I pulled back, right? So if you public shows, sessions, and me and stuff like that, right? And so I had quite a few sessions going on and stuff like that, and my sessions are very long and stuff, right? And there's just really amazing people going through stuff, and this world is tough, right? And I sort of just like by my sheer will and being Aussie freaking relentless brat just worked all this stuff out. And the attitude I have is what doesn't kill you make you stronger, and experience is the key to wisdom. And once you got an experience, how to get out of it. And a lot of the influences can feel like you're in a straitjacket, and if you're harvested and milked and stuff, is like potentially you don't have the energy to get over it and stuff. But to me, like what I've instilled is none of this would be needed if we were inferior, right? So what is our superior state and stuff? So this last year, 6 months and stuff has been pretty profound on the progress. And so I had quite a few sessions, and then I was getting a heads up that something was coming, all right? June 21, I didn't know it was about that, but it was just one of the things I was feeling was, and this is where I shut down and pulled back, was I could already feel that there was some stuff done to the sunlight and the stuff done in the atmosphere, and I'll just be very vague on things like that, right? It was being sort of collected or redirected, or not pure sunlight converted into something in a strategic way to put into the grid of the earth, right? So like when I do earth pranics, I'm just like, let's restore earth to naked level sort of thing, right? And so I could tell that was like really fracking people up, like emotionally distorted and all sorts of stuff, like making people just agitated, crazy and all this sort of stuff. So it was like a very consistent thing that people don't objectify or have a reference. Like I've done the sanctuary state and sanctuary space videos in like 4 or 5 years ago now about knowing yourself and retreating to a state to reanimate yourself and all this sort of stuff. And I could just tell that this is just like really like an original sort of variable going on, right? And just leave it at that. And also like the stuff in the skies going on, I could tell like a lot of people were being multi-dimensional borged, and I could see and sense the cameras in people to spy and all that sort of stuff. And you know, like I said, 3D is like the tip of the iceberg of what's going on. A lot of the stuff is actually working on the multi-dimensional and all this sort of stuff. So if you're going by logic and having to prove yourself in the multi-D, it's just like that is a trap. And what I instilled and offered at the start, one of the core components of me is the vastness of the unknown. The multi-dimensional was all there was. Like day one, like going to a past life regression was all about challenging what I knew to, explore the unknown and bring it back and bring that data back. So I'm very aware of the multi-D and all that sort of stuff. I'm very humble in what I say about what I can perceive and all that sort of stuff, because it's what's not said, okay? So I realized that after pulling back from the shows and all this sort of stuff, and like I said in those Amplify the Echoes, it was about the corrupt DNA and the lack of thoroughness and stuff, and most people do the bare minimum and all that sort of stuff. So a bit of a challenge to get people going in that, right? Challenge yourself, work harder, see what might be uncovered by you taking another step, like climbing the next step on the mountain of your journey and stuff, rather than just like taking it easy and all that sort of stuff, right? So they're the two things. Like I pulled back on the shows and then I pulled back on the sessions, right? The reason why I pull back on the sessions and stuff is like this year I've been a bit passive on the pure source and the earth sort of stuff I do, right? But I thought this time I'd go really hardcore and I would be very thorough, and I'd do earth and pure source and the body of earth and all that pretty consistently across that time. So I did 2 or 3 days in a row of really high level stuff, and it was really fascinating, because then by eliminating the public stuff and then filtering out that variable and all the stuff that goes on with that, and then just shutting down sessions, I removed the bookings on my website for people to book and stuff, and just so that was shut down. They all have different variables and potentials and through time and all that sort of stuff, if that makes sense. So I can sense all those things, and the key is to be masterful in this moment with all that stuff. So a lot of the times I have to pull multi-dimensional beings back in their body, and they don't even know they're not in their body and all this sort of stuff, and just like ring them like a bell, get all the energy hygiene barnacles off them and shit, right? And so yeah, and so I was doing that, and it was really freaking fascinating. Because going back a couple months, I came across some wood, alright? This is probably April, May. Gum trees in our country, they drop branches and stuff, and they have to be cut up and stuff. So we came across some wood, alright? And I thought for the first time in my life I'd have a fire, alright? And at that time, our region was in a drought, alright? So I got to experience the element of fire in a very sacred way, with all this, this victory I've had over my life in this last many years of getting to what I've got to, and integrating like being a healer and doing all these things and putting so many people back together and all this sort of stuff, and all the discreditation and all the violative stuff that goes on out there, that I just ideally like truth and authenticity will outlast all this stuff. So I'm playing the long game, and a lot of people are being messed up, and ideally they'll come out of their own stuff if they're up to it. If they're not, whatever. But also be a beacon for like those that I need to raise my bar to be a match to, sort of thing, right? So it's just very significant. We were in a drought, and there was a lot of, I didn't even know because I don't pay attention and all this sort of stuff. So I had a fire, and obviously that triggered some stuff. And we've had a lot of rain since, right? Why I'm bringing that up is that we had a bunch of wood and stuff like that, and so we've had it for months and months and months. And the fascinating thing is, on a lot of that was given away to a Navy intelligence guy that's in my region, right? Not very far. Ex-Navy intelligence. We'd only worked out the last couple of years, right? And that was given to this person, so a military guy, on June 21st. And I found out that it was to be given on June 20. And so I've done this process of elimination, retreated to brew my energy, and I'm doing like earth, pure source stuff, right? On a big level, multi-hour sort of thing, right? Because I do a lot more than what's out there and stuff. But I thought, like, let's really put it all together, all right? And this is all brewing my energy and all this sort of stuff. So say if you're around people and they've got a lot of issues and all this sort of stuff, right? It's I've always like known there's like a threshold that you sort of can occupy. If you go above that, then there's consequence or reaction and stuff and that. And it's not just one, it can be all the degrees of separation around people and all this sort of stuff. So it can be like a web, like 9 steps back can be triggered to have this thing to get to the person near you and all this sort of stuff, right? So I understand all this mechanics, multi-dimensional sort of chess influence mechanics of how a thing can be triggered to a dormant program and all this sort of stuff, right? So if you appreciate like dropping all the public stuff and all this sort of stuff and actually retreating from sessions and stuff, it was brewing my energy massively, right? And so over this whole many weeks, it's been very purposeful to identify a lot of the variables of influence that have been there in the background. But it's not just me, it's the micro, the macro, it's what's going on to everyone. So I understand all the patterns and the structures, and so the experience of going through that and what's coming and all the different entities and all this sort of stuff. So say I would be clearing a spleen, and like I'd be doing pure source earth healings, and you imagine how good that feels, right? And so then there's pushback, and it's like, holy crap, like I feel like I'm in triage and all this sort of stuff, right? So then I'm like, it's interesting, Old Guard 2's on, the concepts of those guys and their healing, and yeah, I highly recommend Old Guard and then Old Guard 2. It only came out yesterday, sort of thing, on Netflix, right? But how they get beaten up and, you know, how they get shot and destroyed and stuff, and their bodies reanimate and stuff. So a lot of what goes on can be like the smashings that they get. Like me as a healer, you get smashed, but then you can put yourself back together. And I use the Japanese katana method. If you understand a Japanese samurai sword, it's like metal that's folded over and over and over, and they break it and break it, break it until they make it so, like, they might fold it 100, 200 times or something like that. And by doing that, it makes it stronger than anything, sort of thing. So there is a weathering the experience to ultimately come out the other side of it. it's a curing process of your multidimensional self in this reality. Okay, so but I was getting next level stuff. It was like, wow, right? And the symbology of that military thing the day before, on the day of June 21st, I was like, oh shit, right? So all of the other stuff, scrambling and all that to disarm. And then what happened was the Iran bombing on June 21st, right? Of all days, the most significant spiritual day and stuff. And what I know about the big sort of weapons that most people fear and stuff, there's an element of the sun that's needed for them to actually work, right? And if you want to go research Bruce Cathy's harmonic code, I learned all this in 2011, right? So there's a lot of fear that's put out there about certain things, but they don't work unless they're on grid points and there's a sun variable, right? So to me, what was said about that wasn't what was going on, right? And then obviously I'm working at a high level with these other variables and stuff, right? And then what was going on, if you understand that logic of pulling back but brewing and getting more aware, and by isolating all the components, being able to splice up every little thing, and so my awareness was off the charts and stuff like that with everything. So it was like, ooh, we're playing, right? But I had a idea to do what I did, and I had to stop because I realized what went on, and it was done. So you had to retreat and allow it to, the reverberation and the, you know, like if you get cut, then there's time to heal and the wound to set, you know, the bones to set, sort of thing, right? And so I realized, like, with the coordination, it was a metaphor, but it was also related and all this sort of stuff. And so what's going on there to cause that and all this? And then by retreating, then I was able to splice up a lot of the variables of all the different layers of things. So there can be entities, there can be, you know, portals to other people and all this sort of stuff. But then I also got anti-gods, like the apparatus of influences of anti-gods, all right, and anti-god. And then, as I was getting to, I was just clearing out the spleen sort of thing on a variable, and I was actually going into the spleen and tracking back, and I could see all the people, and then I could, like, this dark sort of blob monster and all the tentacles and all this sort of stuff. So I was going off and tracking back all these beings and just clobbering. So I was like joking when I was going to come in and be really funny and bratty and joke and just say I was putting anti-gods in anti-god hospital, and I was going visiting them, and you imagine they got broken legs and they're just in triage and shit, and I'd just go into their room and like, how you going, mate? How's the fucking leg? Sort of, and just fucking put them in more misery. Like, you want to play more? Let's play, you know? So I was just like, I was getting all the different layers and all the different coordination, and, you know, people can get used against you, so it opens your heart or betrays or back of the heart sort of stuff, and then they're puppeted and all this sort of stuff, and then different variables and all that. So I was very much getting a lot of data of the mechanics of the high level orchestration of the influences and stuff. So I was working with that and understanding that and how it all affects people, and then the injustice anywhere, injustice everywhere, and all this sort of stuff. So I was actually getting really targeted by those sort of levels. But what I've been able to do, instead of like operating in a channel that's safe sort of thing, so if you pop out then you get blowback, I've just gone, fuck, F the fuck you fuckers, like, no more. And then there's more been coming, and I've just like smashed them. And so I've been able to work out me and my state on a different level to be able to handle all that and be beyond it and all this sort of stuff. And so I've got more understanding of my modalities and how to do it and all this sort of stuff. And but I needed time to work all this out, to do trial and errors, to see, like, everything has a signature, everything has like a fingerprint of energy that's unique and stuff, like every being and all this sort of stuff, and every state and all that. So I I needed some time to get real good reference points of the different variables and how to identify them and sense them and get an antidote and a solution state to them all and all this sort of stuff, if that makes sense. So, and I had to hold the line to break things, all right, to not play into and reward things, all right. And so I'm still in sort of that process as well, but I'm in a new state, and by being able to retreat and just focus on the subtleties and with not having so many ingredients in my recipe at the moment, I've been able to work out a lot more. And so I've done a lot more since that date. I had to allow it to, because it was really significant. And I'll say what I feel, what happened, right? So if you're into Michael Desarian, he's all about symbology and stuff, and he talks about Washington and that, and the big obelisk in Washington. If you look at the symbology of the Earth and that, there's a Vesica Pisces. I think it's Vesica. It's the two circles overlapping and stuff. And so the symbology of that is there's a massive phallic on Earth, right? So the masculine energy is basically in the lower region, the sacred region of Earth, right? Marking it, okay? Which is metaphoric of the dominance of the masculine over the feminine planet. And if you go back to the moon video that I did 2 years ago, it worked out that the moon is the head of Maldak, which is Earth's protector in the solar system that they destroyed, all right? As a warning of, you defend Earth, we're going to freaking destroy you. Not only that, they use the skull of it as a weapon, like the Death Star wormwood, right? To be like the guard dog, right? And to like broadcast the trauma to Earth of, we killed your guardian brother, sort of thing, right? And not only that, it's a masculine being, and they're putting feminine energy on it to broadcast to the feminine planet to put masculine on here. So they're reversing that, if that makes sense. So let's just call it Richard, the Richard region, like shorten the name Richard on Earth, all right? The big Washington Richards, all right? The military. So they did this event on June 21st, on the solstice of all days, all right? And to me, long story short, it was like one of the big GSFs I did back in September 2023, just coming out the other end of almost being taken out and all this sort of stuff, and really getting onto all this, realizing Earth was, you know, the true Earth was under a grid that's false, right? To disconnect us from our true self, right? And the Akasha Bullshit and all that sort of stuff, right? And so to me it was like there was an effort. One of the missions, what I'm getting back to, is we had to clear out the Earth's cosmic womb because she was being used to breed planets and stuff for domination and control in the universe, right? So negative control planets and all this sort of shit. So we had to, in one big mission, clear her out of all the fucking breeding crap of planet level sort of shit, right? Diabolical stuff of what they've done to her. You think the Ayani massacre is bad, what's happened to you, imagine the planet level and stuff. So, and I know in like many of my Earth pranics that they've actually tried to eject her soul in the last year and stuff like that, and she's been beaten up and stuff, and I've taken a passive role for most of this year of stepping back from doing that to just see if it's stable or not. And like me with this retreating now, I can feel what's going on, right? Not that I'm always trying to know, but I can just, so if I'm aware, I can reanimate straight away. Like if I'm walking around city and stuff and I can feel entities jump, I just know how to, and you get hacked in your legs or whatever and stuff, I know how to reanimate that. You just brush it, or you, in your mind, you know you're clear, and you know you can just reanimate yourself and stuff. So I know how to do that for the fucking planet. Right. Not sure if I should have said that. We'll see. Bring it, fuckers. So after this event, and I didn't know it until I was healing I had to do some couple, like 2 or 3 hour pranics on Earth, you know what I mean? And I would do it, and then I would get, it was like, oh, it's good. Then I'd come back, and it was like, wow, new layers sort of stuff. So it was very interesting. And I've also been dealing with pure source a lot, all right, on the same way, okay? And just checking in, making sure he's good and all that sort of stuff, right? What I got was, you imagine those big bombs, they're just like fracassemen, all right? And it was like, I watched a lot of movies and series and stuff, and I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the movie Wind River, by the guy that creates like Yellowstone, Tyler, what's his name? Sheldon, created Lioness and many, many amazing series, right? He created Wind River, and it was about this rape of a Native American girl, right? And just the diabolical shit that went on, you know, and yeah, it's pretty amazing, heartbreaking movie of the bullshit that goes on in this world, right? So it was like I watched that, and that's the metaphor of what went on, right, to Earth. And in our face on June 21st, right? It was like, what? Like I had this thing going with me to just like derail me, and then I've had this very, very high level of coordination stuff going on, which very much justified the retreat, the instincts to pull back, and all the stuff that I said, right? And so that's what, from my perspective, they were trying to impregnate Earth, right, on one level, and eject her soul still and stuff like that to shatter her. But if you watch the movie Wind River, it might be quite metaphorical of what's gone on, right? I'm just doing this as a quick insert as well in the mid flow. I forgot to talk about Iran a bit and the region and stuff. And so what they did is what they did, and I'm being very vague about it and stuff, right? But what was told is not what was happening, right? And if you go back to my Amplify the Echoes 14, it was about the different regions and different species controlling the different regions from my perspective. And this goes into the incarnation more of the souls of the species and all that sort of stuff, right? But if you got into the Asha stuff, there's all the different layers of Iraq, Iran, and all that sort of stuff, and the significance of those sort of regions with stargates and all this sort of stuff, right? So, you know, there's a lot of breeding going on to create warriors and all that. So there's a masculine layer, but I felt like it's probably a very feminine place, right? And probably a womb sort of like variable that breeds a lot of things, right? And so that's why the significance of, it's interesting, I watched the movie Syriana. I haven't watched that for a long time. There's the Center for, or the Committee for Freeing Iran, or CFI, all right? It's like, wow.
In fact, we just pulled one of our officers out, and I took the initiative to ask him to come down here. He infiltrated Hezbollah in Beirut in the 80s, won himself some nice medals. We're thinking about giving him a station.
Beirut in the 80s, is that a resume builder?
Don't chomp down on any bait. We're fine. Iran is fine. Fine.
And our analysis seems to be on the mark. We're getting good satellite coverage. We're reprogramming resources into
Thank
Iran.
you for coming over, Mr. Barnes. Welcome back, and forgive me if I wade right in, but forgetting for a second your bureaucratic checklist. I'm trying to get undigested information.
Well, to the best of our ability.
India is now our ally. Russia is now our ally. Even China will be an ally. Everybody between Morocco and Pakistan is the problem. Failed states and failed economies, but Iran is a natural cultural ally of the U.S. Persians do not want to roll back the clock to the 8th century. I see students marching in the streets. I hear Khatami making the right sounds. And what I'd like to know is, if we keep embargoing them on energy, then someday soon, are we going to have a nice, secular, pro-Western, pro-business government?
It's possible. It's complicated.
Of course it is, Mr. Barnes. Thank you for your time.
They let young people march in the street, and the next day they shut down 50 newspapers. But if you satellite dishes up on the roofs, let them have my two dads, that doesn't mean that the Ayatollahs are surrendering one iota of control over that nation.
Mr. Barnes, the reform movement in Iran is one of the president's great hopes for the region and crucial to the petroleum security of the United States.
These gentlemen are with the CLI.
The Committee for the Liberation of Iran, Mr. Barnes.
The meeting's already started. You're not on the list. This is not an open function. You're not wearing a badge. You don't have a wristband. This is a private gathering.
Take this to Sydney Hewitt.
And child custody. They are pushing for the segregation of universities and the banning of the wearing of colorful clothing. But 2/3 of Iran's population is under 30, and more than 60% of university students are women. And those restrictions are like a small pebble in front of a massive tidal wave of reform. Iranian resources are abundant, and given the chance, there is no limit to what the Iranian people can achieve. Their hopes are the same as all people in every land, to live lives of dignity in a nation at peace. And America will help them.
It's interesting, I watched the movie Syriana. I haven't watched that for a long time. There's the Center for, or the Committee for Freeing Iran, or CFI, all right? It's like, wow. You know, if you go to Zero Hedge, you see that they've been planning for things for like 15 years and stuff like that. But it's like, to me, from the Earth perspective and the multi-D aspect, it's like a very sacred area for breeding purposes, if that makes sense. So that's why there's a lot of warriors and all this sort of stuff. And so, say in Gaza, they were using polio vaccines, right, on the Gazans, and that, to me, that's about sterilization, okay? So all those sort of things, all right? So yeah, I just wanted to interject that, because the significance of the holdout of Iran and what's there and stuff like that. Syriana might be a really cool metaphor to watch now, alright? With those regions and all that sort of stuff. It's like, wow, it's quite profound. And what I said about the Washington Richard heads, like the masculine dominant sort of thing over the feminine. So it's just like, it's big sort of species sort of chess move sort of alliances going on to prevent what's going on, Stargate 13 sort of control, moving everything over there for the one world order stuff from my perspective, alright? So I'm just going to go back to the main video. I hope that helps. I just forgot that little bit, alright? And so I've had this next level stuff going on at me, but it's like I've just breaking through and just like, you imagine you work that out and how fucking pissed you are. It's like, fucking, not on my fucking watch, fuckers. Alright? And so like I've just like all this stuff I brewed solutions. I'm solution orientated. So what I've done is I've brewed it all, brought it in, sort of like anchored a new sort of thing that's superior to all this sort of stuff, and come out the other side. And so in that as well, I've talked about there's other things as well, like so this sort of era is parallel to what happened when I released Amplify the Echoes Part 12 in late October 2023. And I didn't interact with anyone. There was an effort to try and like prevent something really bad happening, and then the next day the Israel stuff happened, right? And then I realized what was going on back there, and it was just like using data points to work out, but it was more like, I'll just call that region from now on like Stargate 13, because we were using the Asher sort of content and mechanics and all that sort of stuff, not going into original territory. But from my perspective, what I'm getting as well, and I'll be very vague on this, and I'm just going to call it Stargate 13 region now, is there's a greater Stargate 13, so if you substitute that with the country sort of thing, all right, you should go look at it. And to me, what I'm also getting is that there's a plan to relocate the UN over there, all right? So if you understand the history of the UN, there was a League of Nations and that fell apart, and then the UN. So what I'm appreciating is the potential. This is just what I'm getting is at some point there's going to be aim to relocate that centralized government over there, right? Because that's the one world order sort of stranglehold sort of thing. So all the destabilization over in those regions and stuff is all, I got this concept about the being immune to the political sort of drama. And I forget the linguistics I've written down. I wasn't going to talk about it, but it's like the political drama is just drama to distract you of what's going on, right? You've got to see there's a lot of suppression of opposition to all those sort of variables in public and language and all this sort of stuff, right? So that's where I'm like, do I want to say this? But that's a bigger chess move underway, right? So there's, when the leader of a country aligned with a particular orthodoxy, it was like, holy shit, because they're a lot behind what's going on in Europe and all this sort of stuff. And so the plan is sort of being, it's there, okay, if that makes sense. So out of all this, then the next thing I got as well was, there's a thing about creating robots and stuff, and it's the entrepreneurs, they're wanting to be the billionaires and stuff, and I highly recommend like watching the movie I, Robot, because it's fascinating. And there's a series called Caprica, which is about the prequel to the creating of the Cylons in Battlestar Galactica that was released in 2013, I think. And I'll be looking to include clips and stuff like that, but headsets to create VR realities. And the daughter of the Greystone guy, his daughter died, but she created this, like an AI representation of her by taking all the data points and stuff like that, right? And so she died, but her consciousness lived on in an AI form in the VR realities of this Greystone industry sort of stuff. And then, long story short, is what they used that essence of the consciousness of her is to be the AI that ran the Cylons, right? So there was always this going on, but what I realized is it's even worse. And this comes back into the incarnation war, is that the plan is to eliminate the human body and have the incarnation war redirect souls into sort of created bodies relative to that, right? To really lock down the planet, okay? So it's just like, holy shit, that's taken me 6 months to work out. And that's what a lot of the Internet of Things relative to Serena Wallace is about, that helped realize, because they're studying of us, even like, you know, what they're doing in Dreamtime and stuff is testing us and see our reactions to get data points of us, and all this big AI data center sort of stuff is to collect all the metadata to be able to work out the best mechanics for doing all this. It's not all of it, but this is the high level, big, out there sort of things, if that makes sense. Like under the different layers of the narrative, I've got all the sub layers and all that, where the political drama and all this sort of stuff, and these are all the big moves that are just like ongoing, right? So this is what I'm getting. And so learning all this, getting very advanced in the awareness of all the variables at play and defeating them and stuff like that. What I've done is, and like I said, I worked stuff out early in this year, and I was a bit unsure of wanting to share it and stuff, and whether people were ready for it and all this. So what I've done is I've put all this together, and this comes back to you guys at the book sessions and stuff, because I knew there was a bit of a waiting list now, which is interesting and stuff, and I just had to pull back and just block people off, because people can be puppeted and they don't mean it, but I know they're definitely being used, and in sessions I know they're just there to occupy and stuff like that, and I take it on board, and like my attitude is I can help everyone and stuff like that. So and then like the injustice anywhere and injustice everywhere, I can flip them and go after everything behind them and stuff like that. But it's not about me doing that or missions and stuff. It's about the sovereignty of an individual and the violation of their free will and all that, and the defense of them ongoing and all this sort of stuff, right? So what I've done is, and I did some early in this week, some of the bigger GSF sort of Earth and pure source and stuff, and I had to do like a 3-hour on Earth's source, like her soul relative to this that I worked out, and it's like, holy shit, she's just amazing. And all this variable of what's gone on and stuff, and like I said, I was unsure whether I even wanted to talk about it and that, and ideally this will be a lot of coordinate and data points for you guys out there to process and see what's going on right in our face, and not pull back and be meek. It's like time to really what do you want for your future of your future generations if you've got kids? You know what I mean? It's like, fuck, stop being scaredy cats and fucking man up, like I said early in this year and shit. So what I've done, and by being able to pull back this energy and brew myself and all this sort of stuff, I've gotten into this freaking in the zone sort of stuff. So I've brewed a lot of energy and got a lot of experience in the coordinates and cleared them out and gotten into the best state I've probably ever been, sort of thing. And so I've worked on my sovereignty declaration, and I've got a version 5 that I'm going to release, and I've sort of the last few nights worked 20 hours sort of stuff and doing it, and it's very fascinating of even so clear and the things that are coming through sort of thing, trying to derail that, and it's just ooh, you don't like this, so I'm going to do it really freaking well and do it even better than I thought now, because thanks for that. Thanks for telling me what you didn't want me to do. I'm going to do it with bells on. I'm going to river dance this shit in multi-D in your face. You don't want that, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I've done significant evolution to it, and it was a very significant personal victory to get version 4 done earlier in this year and stuff. And now what I know, and who knows what we're going to know in the future and stuff, but I really knocked it out of the park and added a lot of bits, and a lot of what I worked out earlier in the year about I've been able to convey in linguistic form to you, to employ your tones and your voice to, ideally achieve sovereignty to it, to be an anchor point for the resistance to everything and stuff like that. So I've basically finished the complete version, and I've done it in sections now, with the big sections, the big overall stuff, the big society stuff, the bigger individual stuff, and then the body sort of stuff. So I've got all these sections. Like what I would do is I'd just get inspiration and just put it down and let it go and put it into the declaration, and then it grew and it got so big that then I worked out to do many different versions, and I never released the shorter versions and stuff. But and it was important, those of you that actually did version 4 with me or on your own and stuff, to me it's like you've all contributed to this, okay? And I appreciate the effort and the investment and stuff and being badass and thorough. Like I said in Amplify the Echoes 15 and 16 that haven't had many views, and there was interesting things like, I don't think everything is real relative to me, so you can't trust it, right? So yeah, I'm aiming, like I'm doing this a couple of days before I do the release normally and stuff, so whether it'll be out or not, I just need to go over it and stuff like that, and then I'll do the process of creating the different versions and stuff, right? And that's where it comes in, like it's poetic that you guys have booked sessions, and I haven't gotten to you, but I've worked hard on my end to get myself to this, and then create this out of it, so that when I meet up with you guys, we'll be able to do it together and stuff. And ideally, like with my state and my energetic state and what I do now, and the evolution of my healing mechanic. I'm not talking about what I've worked out and how my healing has improved, because I'm that's just going to be kept for me and stuff. But I've worked out a very fascinating mechanics that I might impart to a couple of people that I know. We'll see. But it streamlines what I do, and ideally, like I haven't, you know how they say like you can't heal yourself and all that sort of stuff. To me, that's fucking bullshit. Like if you can't heal yourself, why are you dealing with other people sort of shit, right? What corruptions are in you that might be causing effect to others? So to me, it's like, if I can't heal myself, then how can I work on other people, sort of thing. Like energy hygiene, having a solid foundation and all that sort of stuff, right? So with all these things, I've worked out sort of what I feel is the solution. So ideally, when I come back to dealing with people, it's going to be very interesting, and I'll open that up soon and stuff like that. I'll have to catch up with a lot of people. I haven't even looked at my emails. I've just wanted to be very isolated and like the sensitivities on overdrive of all the different variables and all that sort of stuff, right? So I've been a bit vague and a bit of an overview sort of way this time and stuff. Ideally, there's some reference points and a lot of information, and it'll help maybe translate what you were sensing or what you know and stuff like that. And I hope you've had an awesome few weeks and stuff like that, and you've had a lot of progress and evolution and improvement and awareness expansion, and feeling really potent and powerful, and appreciating the privilege it is to be on Earth here now with this awareness, right? So I'll leave that with you. I hope this is enough. I hope you get a lot from it. And those of you that I've got to catch up with, I look forward to seeing you, and I hope you really just make every moment count, like how precious our peak awareness, even existence on Earth, is in these bodies as it is, because everything keeps evolving and stuff and that. And I hope this empowers you to keep going and take one more breath and push hard and be thorough and be relentless, guys, alright? And when the Infinite Potential Sovereignty Declaration version 5 is released, I hope you really get into it and get a lot out of it. Alright? So thanks for being here. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. I hope you get a lot from this. And so until next time, Crocodile, Star-Lord, Wolverine, Aladdin, Dundee, from down under, eating his multi-dimensional Vegemite sandwiches like there's no tomorrow. Out. Take care, guys. See you next time. Bye for now.
gonna keep on shining. Brighter days on the horizon. My love for you will always keep on rising. Everything's gonna be alright tonight. Oh yeah, my love for you is gonna keep on rising. The sun's gonna keep on shining. Bright days on the horizon. My love for you will keep on rising. Everything's gonna be alright. The sun's gonna keep on shining. Bright days on the horizon. My love for you will keep on rising. Everything's gonna be alright.
Swimming in December, heading for the city lights. 975, we're sharing each other, nearer than farther. Scent of the lemon drips from your eyes. We are the people that rule the world. What's running in every boy and girl? All rejoicing in the world. Take me now. We can try. We live in adventure.
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.